and welcome to the October 16th, 2024 meeting of the Lower Merion Board of Commissioners. We have 3 meetings this evening. We have an Administrative and Human Resources Committee meeting, Police Committee, and a Board of Commissioners meeting. Before we start, I'd like to ask you to silence your cell phones. There's amplifying equipment available for those who are having difficulty hearing during the meeting. The room is also equipped with telephone technology. And later, when the floor is open to public comment, comment will first be taken from those who are attending in person in this room, and then from those who are attending virtually by Zoom. And then we ask that you introduce yourself before making your comments. But first, we'll start with our first committee meeting, the Administrative and Human Resources Committee, and I recognize its chair, Commissioner Woodring.
Thank you, President Sinai. We have 2 items on tonight's agenda. We'll roll right into the first one, the appointment of the Chief Technology Officer. With that, I'll start with a motion to recommend to the Board of Commissioners confirmation of the appointment by the Township Manager of Danya Joe to the position of Chief Technology Officer effective October 21st, 2024. Do I have a second? Thank you, Commissioner Kramer. And Ernie, if you could go ahead and give an explanation.
Certainly, Commissioner. As is required by code for senior staff department head positions, I am required to provide you with a nomination of who I would like to select for these positions. And we had a retirement in the position of Chief Technology Officer in February of this year. James Wyman retired from the position. I have nominated for you and provided you some background information on Danya Shao, our nominee for the position. Danya has been serving as acting Chief Technology Officer since February. She's a 9-year employee with the township, has gone through at least 1 promotion already. Really served as the right-hand person to our former Chief Technology Officer. We went through a process that included both internal and external applicants. But I'm very, very pleased to be able to nominate an internal applicant, Danya, for the position. Glad to answer any questions that you might have of me, and I see Danya is here at the podium, ready to answer any questions you might have of her.
Okay. First, we'll open it up for public comment. If there's anyone in the room on Zoom.
No one has their hand raised.
Okay, awesome. So with that, if anyone in the committee has questions or comments. Vice President Kramer?
Welcome. Stepping up.
All right, well, with that, I'll call it to a vote. Sorry.
It seems, we had the opportunity before we came out to talk to Danya, and all of us got to, ask questions and express our gratitude. So here in public, we didn't want to make it, appear that we're less than very, very grateful and glad that the manager has made you the nominee, and in minutes we get to make it official. So welcome and thank you.
All right. President Sana?
Well, thank you, Commissioner Woodring. So let me also say, Danya has served the township already for 9 years, and it's delightful to have someone who's been successful in the township, worked their way up through the township, and has a well-deserved promotion within the township. It's great to see the sign that this township is developing its employees. It's wonderful to be able to reward those who've already worked very hard, improving herself in the job as the acting person in the position. So again, welcome. Thank you. We really are grateful for your service in the township and look forward to working with you so much. Thank you, Commissioner Woodring.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? All right, with that, we'll call it to a vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Madam Secretary, that passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Michelle, if you have the opportunity to make some comments if you'd like.
Yes. I want to thank everyone who has the confidence in me, and thank you for the opportunity to allow me to have this continual chance to advance the technology of the township.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome. All right, and with that, we'll move on to the second item on the agenda, which is a resolution for the disposition of public records. So I'll start with making a motion to recommend to the Board of Commissioners adoption of a resolution authorizing the disposal of certain public records in accordance with the schedules and procedures as set forth in the Municipal Records Manual approved by the Pennsylvania Local Government Records Committee on December 16th, 2008, and amended on March 28th, 2019. Do I have a second? Thank you, Commissioner Epstein. With that, is there any public comment on Zoom? No? Any questions or comments from the committee? Nope. All right, I'll call it for a vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Abstentions? Opposition? That passes unanimously. It's important to note that these items are being referred to tonight's Board of Commissioners meeting for final action. President Sinai, that concludes the business of the Administrative and Human Resources Committee.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Woodring. Our next committee meeting is the Police Committee. Our District Chair, Vice President Kramer.
Thank you, President Sinai. We have one item on tonight's agenda, which is the authorization of the police promotion. I'll make a motion to recommend to the Board of Commissioners authorizing the promotion of Officer Damian Evans to the position of sergeant from the list of candidates certified by the Civil Service Commission as recommended by the Superintendent of Police. May I have a second? Thank you, Commissioner Zella. Superintendent Block, can you tell us more?
Yes, good evening. Thank you, Vice President Kramer. So it's a pleasure to be here this evening to make the recommendation to promote Officer Damian Evans to Police Sergeant. Primarily, he'll be assigned to our Patrol Division. Currently, he has served with the Police Department over the 10 previous years. He's served in many different positions in the Patrol Division. Most recently, he's the Patrol Investigator, Platoon Investigator for Platoon Number 1, where he assists detectives and manages crime scenes. In addition to that, he's also certified as an Advanced Crisis Intervention Specialist. He is one of our VR, virtual reality instructors in de-escalation. He's a member of our emergency response team. He's also a field training officer. So he has many qualifications within the police department. Prior to joining our police department, he served with the United States Army from 1999 to 2005. He was assigned to the 1st Battalion 75th Ranger Regiment, where he completed 4 tours of duty in Afghanistan and 2 tours of duty in Iraq. After he was honorably discharged from the United States Army, he attended Armstrong Atlantic State University, where he obtained his Bachelor's of Science degree in biology. After completing college, he attended and worked for the 1st Judicial District of Pennsylvania in their warrant unit, and that was prior to being hired by the Lower Township Police Department. He came out #1 in our evaluation process that was certified by the Civil Service, so I think he would be a phenomenal asset as a patrol sergeant to our police department.
Thank you. Any comments from the public? Anyone in the room? Anybody online, Madam Secretary?
No one has their hand raised.
Okay. I would just like to say thank you to Superintendent Block for bringing forth Officer Evans for nomination to Sergeant. It's always great to have the opportunity to advance great people.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Any other comments from committee? All right. With that, we'll have a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? No abstentions? Madam Secretary, that passes unanimously, and that concludes business of the Police Committee.
Thank you very much, Vice President Kramer. So we're on to the Board of Commissioners meeting this evening, and we'll the October 16, 2024 meeting of the Board of Commissioners of the Township of Lower Merion. Please come to order and all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Bernheim.
Present.
Mr. Churchill.
Here.
Mr. Courtney.
Here.
Ms. Epstein.
Here.
Mr. Gavin.
Present.
Mr. Grimes.
Here.
Ms. S. Kramer.
Here.
Ms. G. Kramer.
Here.
Dr. Rossman.
Here.
Mr. Stevenson.
Present.
Mr. Whalen.
Here.
Mr. Woodring.
Here.
Mr. Zelloff.
Here.
Mr. Sinai.
Here.
Mr. President, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. I'm going to make a motion that we approve the minutes of the stated meeting of the Board of Commissioners held on September 18, 2024 as distributed. Do I have a second? Thank you, Vice President Kramer. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Abstentions? Madam Secretary, it passes unanimously. A few announcements. The board met in executive session earlier this evening regarding the following matters. personnel matters, of police promotion, police arbitration and litigation, employee benefits, and a Rolling Hill Park cottage lease. The township will hold an open house on Saturday, October 26, 2024, from 10 a.m. until 1 p.m. at the Public Safety Building at 71 East Lancaster Avenue in Ardmore. We're going to now turn to public privilege of the floor. This is a section of our meeting where members of the public may address the board on any non-agenda items or any other public matters in which the township has jurisdiction or authority. We ask that you please state your name before speaking to the board, roughly where in the township you live, and please keep your comments 3 minutes or less. Anyone in the room wish to take advantage of public privilege? Seeing none? Anyone online, Jody?
No one has their hand raised.
Okay. So moving on, we're now into public comment. So this is the section of our meeting where members of the public may address the board on any agenda items, including the ordinances being considered for adoption later this evening. When we get to those ordinances, we will not be taking separate comment. We do it here. Anyone in the room wish to take advantage of public comment?
Ed Rothstein from Wynwood, Mars Road in particular. I'd like to thank you guys for the hopefully approval of the high priority sidewalks, which includes engineering for 2 segments of Mars Road. Nice to see that finally progress on this. I'd like more progress in the future, but this is a great first step. So thanks for that's the next one is on the rental rates. I see nothing there about definition for a rooming house as to how that relates to like Airbnb rentals. So just like to understand that.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room wish to take advantage of public comment? Okay, seeing none. Jody, anyone online?
No one has their hand raised.
Okay. Does any board member wish to respond to any of the comments? Maybe Manager Amelia. Chris is here. Yeah, Chris, there's a question about the definition of a rooming house in the student rental ordinance. Brandon, okay, perfect. Everyone's pointing at each other. That's a stereotype.
I can handle that, Commissioner. So good evening, members of the board. We intentionally did not include any language regarding, quote, Airbnbs, which are termed as short-term rentals, because we wanted to address the long-term rentals first. But it is the intent of staff is, pending the approval of this and the launch of our new rental program, the next thing on our docket is to come back with language specific for short-term rentals, just because the nature of their operation is so unique as compared to long-term rentals. We did not want to muddy the waters, and we intend to come back to this board with new regulations for short-term rentals, which includes, Vivo and Airbnb.
Okay. Thank you very much, Assistant Manager. And I will also respond to Mr. Brownstein. I too hope that we will be passing the high priority sidewalks. I look forward to getting going on them. I will just say to you and everyone else who lives in the neighborhood of a high priority sidewalk that the township voting to move ahead on engineering and allocating the money is actually possibly the easiest part of the process, and it takes a tremendous amount of neighborhood effort to work with the township to move these things forward. And we very, very much look forward to working with people in the neighborhood to actually make these things get from budget allocation to getting done. Like that second part is really important. Anyone else wish to respond to the public comment? Go ahead. We're now on to the consent calendar. Does anyone want to remove any other consent? Okay. There is one thing I want to let you know about consent. On chapter 105, the lighting ordinance, staff will be correcting the language on figure 11.1 on page 8 of the agenda. There, the word acceptable will be replaced with shielded, unacceptable will be replaced with unshielded, and lighting will be replaced with fixtures. So it is a correction of the language to actually match the ordinance. The township solicitor has indicated that this correction can be handled administratively by staff. We don't need to pull it off consent and need to spend the time redeliberating it. It's a simple technical correction. So with that, we move that we approve the consent calendar. as presented, and including the items from the Administrative and Human Resources Committee and Police Committee meetings held earlier this evening. Thank you, Vice President Kramer, for the second. Madam Secretary, please call the roll for that.
For the adoption of the consent calendar, Mr. Bernheim.
Aye.
Mr. Churchill.
Yes.
Mr. Courtney.
Yes.
Ms. Epstein.
Yes.
Mr. Gabbard.
Aye.
Mr. Grimes.
Yes.
Ms. S. Kramer.
Yes.
Ms. G. Kramer.
Yes.
Dr. Rossman.
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson. Mr. Whalen.
Yes.
Mr. Woodring.
Yes.
Mr. Zelloff.
Aye.
Mr. Sinai.
Yes.
The consent calendar is duly adopted.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. We are now on to page 59 of your packet. We have an adoption of the ordinance, Chapter 75, Fair Housing, and Chapter 92, Housing Property Maintenance, Licensing Requirements and Regulations for Student Residential Rentals. Does anyone on the board have questions for staff or comments that they want to make on this? Okay. I'm going to move that we adopt ordinance number 4297, which is an ordinance to amend the code of the Township of Lower Merion, Chapter 92, Property License, by removing the provisions for residential rental licensing and the definition of certain defined terms found only in those provisions, by amending Chapter 75 Fair Housing to read Chapter 75 Housing, by amending Chapter 75 in its entirety to retain provisions for fair housing, and by adding thereto provisions for student rental licensing and residential rental licensing, and by amending Chapter A167 fees to provide a fee schedule for student and residential rental licensing. This ordinance would authorize for advertisement to the stated meeting of the Board of Commissioners held September 18, 2024, and duly advertised on September 29, 2024, edition of the mainline time consideration. Thank you, Commissioner Zell. Madam Secretary?
For the adoption of ordinance 4297, Mr. Bernheim.
Aye.
Mr. Churchill.
Yes.
Mr. Courtney.
Yes.
Ms. Epstein.
Yes.
Mr. Gabbard.
Yes.
Mr. Grimes.
Yes.
Ms. S. Kramer.
Yes.
Ms. G. Kramer.
Yes.
Dr. Rossman.
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson. Mr. Whalen.
Yes.
Mr. Woodring.
Yes.
Mr. Zelloff.
Aye.
Mr. Sinai.
Yes.
The ordinance is duly adopted.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. We're now on page 90 of your packet, which is the adoption ordinance, Chapter A167, fees, solid waste collection. Do we have any questions for staff or comments about our fellow commissioners? Mr. Bernheim?
Yeah, thank you very much, President. We had considerable discussion about this and the menu of options that we were proposed to consider. And this is not the proposal which I endorsed. I'm not seeking to revisit all of those discussions, but merely the reason for which I will not be in favor of this. In short version, we had several years ago set up a subcommittee or ad hoc committee to study the solid waste fees that came back after some due diligence and research and working with the staff with recommendations. We now find ourselves in a situation where there's an increase which was needed. If their prior research was solid, I submit that it was, then having an ordinance which spread an increase of 5% across the board is that which I endorsed before and will do so now. Here it seems to be adjusted, and my concern is really, in short version, twofold. One is there is the potential of some unintended consequences. Certain people who have larger families or some medical needs are going to be forced to pay more with the concept that the higher price may induce them to have less trash and try maybe not to have rear yard pickup in order to save some costs. They may not be able to do so. I think they get swept in unnecessarily in that regard. And there also continues to be a concept of that this is more than a fee for service. We are, in order to do this, we have set certain charges that are out there. We are not in the business of making a profit for this as opposed to, or in comparison to private industry, but to cover the cost of labor and materials. And the thought process as well, we charge less for maybe mini cans, more for others. It will encourage people to use mini cans and have less waste. We have found that that does not occur, that we have the same amount of garbage that's being put in there. And I think the fee for service is not the methodology by which we go ahead and try to educate people to change their operation of use of garbage. So I will not be supporting this.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Bernheim. Commissioner Kramer?
I also will not be supporting this for the reasons that I expressed during our previous discussions about this, which are primarily equity reasons. And I do hope that this board will make it a priority next year to look closely at this issue and reevaluate the structure of solid waste fees.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Kramer. Anyone else? Okay. So I'm going to make a motion. I can move that we adopt ordinance number 4298, which is an ordinance to amend the code of the Township of Lower Merion, Chapter 8167 fees, to provide for an increase in fees related to the collection of solid waste from residential properties. This ordinance was authorized for advertisement in the stated meeting of the Board of Commissioners held September 18th, 2024, and duly advertised on September 29th, 2024, edition of Main Line Times and Suburban. Do I have a second? Thank you, Vice President Kramer. Madam Secretary.
For the adoption of ordinance 4298, Mr. Bernheim.
Nay.
Mr. Churchill.
Yes.
Mr. Courtney.
Yes.
Ms. Epstein.
Yes.
Mr. Gabbard.
Yes.
Mr. Grimes.
Yes.
Ms. S. Kramer.
Yes.
Ms. G. Kramer.
No.
Dr. Rossman.
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson.
Aye.
Mr. Whalen.
Yes.
Mr. Woodring.
Yes.
Mr. Zellop.
Aye.
Mr. Sinai.
Yes.
The ordinance is duly adopted.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. So I'm not going to say I'm competitive or anything, but I've been hearing all night about how good a meeting Vice President Kramer ran last week. So is there any unfinished business to come before the board?
Yes.
I was thinking about Boston until we get there.
Says the man who walked in late. For new business, Commissioner Della.
2 days ago, on Monday, in the parking lot, the township, its staff celebrated the annual picnic. And the food was good, and a number of commissioners were there. And something that happens every year is our manager announces service awards. So we recognize employees who have been with our township for a certain amount of time. So I would just like to recognize 2 of those employees. Pat McGovern, who's in Facilities Maintenance Division of Public Works, has worked for Lower Merion Township for 40 years. And so we recognize and salute his service and dedication to our township. The other employee who received a service award is with us in the room this evening, and he's sitting to my left. And so Ernie awarded himself the service award for 10 years working here in Lower Merion Township. We are very grateful for Ernie's dedication and service and very capable leadership, both of our staff and to us, the governing body. And we thank you, Ernie, for your guidance, your wisdom, and helping us get through many complicated issues. And so to all employees, thank you for your work in Lower Merion Township, and particularly to all of those who have received service awards on Monday. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Zell. Thank you.
Just thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. So 10 years working with us is like 40 years normal time. Okay, with that, we are adjourned this evening. Have a good evening, everyone.
I'm really proud of us, guys. We have 2 weeks off.
I honestly thought that was going to
That's what we like.